You're listening to The Artist Athlete, episode 37. This podcast is dedicated to CIRCUS. It's a place for professionals in the industry to share their stories, viewpoints, and information, and a place for outsiders to get a sneak peek into this world. Hey friends, fans, and enemies. I'm Shannon McKenna, and I'm the host of the Artist Athlete podcast and the founder of theartistathlete.com. The Artist Athlete podcast is sponsored entirely by listeners just like you through the website patreon.com. If you love what you're listening to and want to help me out, go to patreon.com/theartistathlete. Patreons get super special giveaways, Patreon-only Artist Athlete swag, and advanced access to the latest episodes. Again, go to patreon.com/theartistathlete. My guest today is Cate Great. Cate is a 17-year veteran of circus stages and street shows. She blends high-end circus with unique comedy. She trained at the Quebec School and has performed in 11 different countries, including Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, Dubai, and as well as most of the United States and Canada. Whether she is precariously balanced on her rollabola or defying gravity balanced on her hands, or sometime just one hand, you will be thrilled and amazed. And if you don't know what a rollabola is, go to one of her shows. You will not be disappointed. Or you can just Google rollabola. Oh, and real quick, just for the sake of facts, the first alleged person to execute a triple on the flying trapeze was named Alfredo Kadena. And you'll hear why that's relevant when you listen to my interview with Cate Great. Starting now. Cate Great.
That's me.
That is you.
I put it on a poster and everything. That's how people know that I'm great.
It says it on the poster.
Yeah, no. This is a website, and if it's on the internet, it's true.
Yes. Yeah, actually.
The world we live in now.
Yep. If it's on the internet, It's the truth. Well, welcome to the podcast. This actually will be on the internet, too.
Oh, wow.
So all of this will be actually true as well.
Oh, my God. So much truth we're going to make, like, right now.
Yeah.
Did you know that back in 47, I personally trained Adrian Cardona? Like,
did you?
Oh, I think his name is Alfonso or whatever. Oh, yeah, I did it.
Well, no, it's,
now
I mean, like, it's whatever you say
it's true.
it is. So,
yeah.
Perfect.
First guy to hit the triple on a flying trapeze, that was me.
Wow. What was that like?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, people had real shitty form back then, so, like, I just taught him how to do it right, and then he could do it.
Yeah,
incredible.
You were just like, well, you're doing a double, so do one more rotation, and then there you go.
I'm like, what if you try blocking it? And so instead of kicking yourself in the back of the head, like, you go up first and then rotate, and he was like, holy shit, 5 generations we've been trying to get this trick, and you just time traveled. Okay, this is getting weird.
No, yeah, it's really... So can you say what you actually do?
I am an international street performer. Have my own 45-minute solo busking show. Handstands, juggling, acrobatics, danger.
Danger? That's such a good circus discipline.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's theatrical danger,
right.
You know. Like
Naturally.
There has to be some stakes there, so, like, I get a couple of ribeyes every show and just... Stakes. Never mind.
No,
okay.
I got it.
No. That was awful.
Yeah, but no, that's on the internet too.
And this is why I'm a street performer and not in a comedy club, because I earn a living. So you are going to get a lot of angry emails from stand-up comedians.
Yeah, all of the stand-up comedians who listen to this circus podcast, for sure, they're going to be pissed.
They're just going to be real mad.
Yeah, for sure. So, how'd you become a street performer? You were just like, I could do that.
No, it's the opposite. I kind of fell into it. I sort of describe it like it's like a bit of an arranged marriage where you're not really sure if you like the person or not, but then it turns out by luck, like you gradually come to know and appreciate and fall in love with them.
So did your parents tell you to become a street performer?
No. So I was living in Boulder, and and I was doing like corporate gigs or whatever, and there was a street pitch out there, and my friends were always trying to get me to go out and do a show, and I didn't have one, and I tried one, and it was like traumatically bad. Like, it was just so awful. People just walked away and left.
Wait, so did you not, like, you didn't write any material or anything? You just kind of like went out there and did a handstand?
Well, no, it wasn't quite that bad, but it wasn't much better. I had a few ideas and some bits that I had done for like walk around events and stuff like that. But like, I tried to like string them all together, and then I tried to stop people and get them to watch it, and they did not. And it was just so frustrating and difficult and exhausting that I gave up on it. And the next year I got this gig at a theme park where I had to do my own show, and I had to do like 5 shows a day, 5 days a week. And
how did you get a gig doing your own show if you didn't have a show to sell?
Well, they hired me initially just to do strolling, like walk around juggling, and then they came to me and were like, "We'd like it if you did a show." And I was like, "Do I get more money?" And they were like, "For..." But then eventually they did give me more money, so I wrote a show.
Right on.
And you know, like, you do 25 shows a week for a couple of months, you eventually start to figure something out. So by the time that whole contract collapsed, because the theme park company was contracting a little bit, so they let their entire entertainment department go.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I know. Like, I had moved back to Colorado to do this gig, and like, and they're like 2 weeks, a month from the end of it, when it was supposed to end, they're just like, "And so your department doesn't exist anymore." And I was like, "Oh, good." Which was really good, because I took that show back out onto the street and just made way more money than I was making on a per show basis on the theme park, and I was just much more comfortable stopping and approaching people, and I had a show that I could rely on. And so I was able to get through that first really rough period of time in a street show where you're trying to learn how to build and structure a show, and how to make it happen with the pressure of, like, you need to do it well enough so that people give you money and the other street performers don't resent you for taking up their space where they could be making a living.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you, there's like that tension between, like, you kind of necessarily have to suck because you haven't done it before, but you're also in a space with a bunch of people who don't suck. Yeah.
And they want to make their money because, you know, they also enjoy eating and being alive and having a place to live and all that. Okay. Yeah, it's weird. People are real demanding.
Artists.
Yeah, it's weird. So it's like, there's a primetime spot, and someone who has no idea what they're doing is on it, like, just wasting this, like, the space where someone could be making a significant amount of money. And this person who has no idea what they're doing is just fumbling around making nothing. It's a real high stakes kind of high pressure
how did you
situation.
handle that?
Well, at first they wouldn't let me work during the good times, and so then not only do you have to get good enough to street perform, but you have to get good enough to street perform during the worst times as well. But with the theme park gig, eventually I just sort of like skipped a lot of that. Because now I had a show that was ready to go. Yeah. It wasn't like perfectly adapted to the street, but at least it worked enough so that the other street performers weren't resentful, and I could start earning enough money to, you know, pay some bills. And
nice. When did you become Cate Great?
I became Cate Great. That is an interesting question, actually. I became Cate Great after the 2008 financial collapse.
Oh. Yeah. When all great things happened.
Basically. So what happened was I had graduated from circus school. I saved all my money from street performing.
And where did you go to circus school?
L'École des Cirques de Quebec.
Yeah.
I know. It sounds better if you pronounce it that way. Like the Circus School of Quebec City. So I had saved my street performing money, put myself through circus school, graduated in 2008, and the entire economy bottomed out. And so I bounced around for like a year doing like little piddly contracts and trying to get circus work. And eventually I was totally broke. the tour I was on, the children's show tour that I was on, like, went belly up, and I was stranded at my parents' place, like 10 pounds overweight. Yeah. Which is rough for a hand balancer, you know? I was like, could barely hold a handstand, could hardly juggle 5. I was like out of shape, completely broke. I decided that I would go back to street performing, but instead of doing the show that I had been doing, which was just like, here are all of the things I know how to do. Please pay me money for them at the end. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I decided to write a show, use all the things I learned at school, and write a show with a character that I would enjoy performing, and with skills that I would enjoy performing, and something that would make me proud artistically, even if I was, like, quote, settling for working on the street. And so I did, man. I took a job as an usher at Cavalia.
Nice.
So, yeah. So at least I was sort of tangentially working in the circus business.
Yeah.
And I would go down there like an hour early every day, and I would just juggle in the park by myself while the Moroccan acrobats walked by and were like, hey, you juggle good. I'd do handstands. I'd run every day, and I'd usher all night, and then I'd save my money and write my script, and then I took the show down to Key West, where it promptly bombed, you know?
Nice.
I was able to make enough money to get myself back to Quebec, where I spent like a few weeks training with my friends, getting back into shape, and continuing to write the script of the show. And eventually what came out was something that really started to catch on in the like street performing community in the international scene. I just got on a plane to Australia and like took it there.
Oh, you just got on a plane?
I just did. I mean, I give them money first.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and then I just got on a plane with all my shit and went to Australia to meet other international buskers so that I wasn't in the same like insular community of 10 to 20 buskers that I knew around Key West and Colorado. I went out and met a bunch of people, made good impression, and they recommended me to other people. And I made a good impression on them, and they recommended me to other people, and I started to pick up, international festivals and trawl around.
Is it unique that you went to circus school and then became a street performer? Or do most street performers go to circus school?
Most street performers do not go to circus school. But I would say that the most unique thing is that I was a street performer, then I went to circus school, then I went back to the street. Because there are now a lot of circus schools out there that are producing a lot of graduates, more than there are gigs. And there are some performers who are realizing that the busking festival circuit and like street performing can be lucrative or at least steady work. So there are now more circus school performers like who are trying street shows, and it is adorable to watch them fail. But like it's so much harder than you think.
No doubt. What do you think the hardest thing about it is?
It's stopping people, like,
yeah,
and then getting them to stay, and then getting them to give you all of it. It's hard. Like, just watching people, you put your little heart out there, and you like offer up your best skills and the best ideas that you came up with, and you just watch people look at your ideas and go, meh, and just turn around and leave. Like, it's not like when you're in an indoor show and people start to like shuffle and fidget, and like you can kind of tell you're losing the crowd, but they're still there. Like
they're forced to be there. They can't just walk
look you in
away.
the eye and then they go. Or you like, or worse, they don't. Like you go into your prop case to pick up something else, and you turn around and half your audience is gone.
Oh no.
It's so awful. It's so dispiriting.
What are your strategies for making them stay?
Oh my gosh. Being good.
Yeah, I hear that works.
It doesn't. No.
This is the greatest interview ever.
you have to think about it a little bit from their perspective, right? Like, these people are just going shopping, they're going out to eat, they're going about their lives. They have no idea that they're going to be entertained or that they want to be entertained.
Oh, interesting.
And they're just looking for somewhere to invest their time, you know? So you have to establish a level of trust, and you have to show them, like, yes, this is going to be a good place for you to invest your time. You know, stay with me, and you will not regret this decision. Because that's the question people are asking themselves immediately, right? Like, they come up to a performer, they see the performer, and they're like, is this going to be fun, or is this a thing that I'm going to get sucked into? And I'm going to feel bad that I'm stuck here watching this thing. Like that performer last night, you know?
The magician?
Yeah, like, walked up to him and we're like, I don't know, are we going to be just stuck here for a while? Is there going to be any...
Oh, yeah, I was getting Chick-fil-A, so I
Yeah.
It was the whole reason you guys had to do that.
No, so what I do is I do, like, I try to look like I know what I'm doing. So that when people are like, should I stay and watch this? Oh, she looks like she knows what she's doing. Maybe it'll be worth staying. And then I try to make build a relationship, like build a rapport with the people who are there.
Yeah.
And then if they seem like they're enjoying themselves, more people will come. And they'll see that those people are enjoying themselves. So they'll decide that it's okay for them to stay too. And then once I get enough people, then I'll start the show for real.
Okay.
But I don't start until I have enough people, because, like, if you're in the middle of the show and there's only 5 people watching, people walking by are going to be like, well, I guess you're not good.
Mm-hmm. You've got to build the crowd to get the crowd.
Exactly. Small little tricks. Don't give away too much big stuff, and a bunch of jokes. Mm-hmm. Like, if you can get them laughing, then they're more likely to stay.
And then how do you get the people to, once they stay, how do you get them to give you money?
You ask.
Go on.
But you...
Because this is something that's very different in the street performing world than, like, when you're performing and you have a contract and you know how much you're going to make and you know everything's kind of decided ahead of time.
Right. Well, but you still have to go through a negotiation phase. Mm-hmm. So, like, in a street show, you are literally just doing everything right there. You're doing all of your marketing right at the beginning, right? Like, you're doing all your marketing, all of your promotion is basically the show, getting people to stay to you. And then the end is essentially a contract negotiation. You're essentially trying to convince people that the thing that they have just seen has value. Like, the thing that they have just participated in is worth their time, and it's worth their money. And there's a lot of techniques that people use. You make comparisons to other things that people have, like, spent their money on, you know, compared to, like, a movie, you know. It's like, you'll spend $10 to see a movie, but this was a live experience. Or you'll spend $5 on a expensive cup of coffee, you know. That $5 for the experience, you know, isn't this worth $5?
Yeah,
to you,
sure.
et cetera, et cetera. So,
yeah,
like, there are different strategies of just trying to convince people to give their money and then to give more. Because if you tell people, like, give me a couple of dollars, they'll give you a couple of dollars, or maybe they'll just give you some change, you know. So you really want to try to convince them that they want to give a significant amount of money.
And how do you do that?
It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still working on it.
Well, I think it was interesting what you said the other night about how now you're getting more money through Venmo.
Oh, yeah.
Than in cash.
Not more than in cash.
Okay.
But, like, when I first started taking digital tips with a Square Reader and PayPal and a bunch of other things, like, I would get some here and there, and it was just, like, bonus money. But this last year, with Venmo and with Square and with some other sources of digital tips, I've had shows where I was like, wow, that was a decent amount of money to make for a show, but without digital tips, it would have been a terrible show. Like, it would have been almost a waste of my time.
Huh.
So to have it be not the majority of the money, but to have it be, like, that significant of a chunk is brand new.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and it might just be, like, that one particular area where it's become a lot more popular, but it's just, I've been pretty surprised by it.
Yeah, I always love it when like new technology or these new ways of learning or interfacing with the world kind of influence something like street performing, which is so old school.
I don't know. I'm a little bit of an old crazy street performer now, but like I do prefer cash still. Like,
well, yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, well, that's for me. Like, if I get a tip on Square or a tip on Venmo, that money is coming through a company. But like if I get a tip in cash from somebody, I am getting money directly from that person. Like it's just, to me, the thing I love about street theater is that, you know, there aren't agents, there's no tiers between you and the audience. Like the audience is there because you talk to them. They are giving you money directly because they liked you. They enjoyed what you did. And to me, I think there's something just a little bit romantic about that still. I was like,
yeah. You know. And what you did is decided entirely by you.
Yeah.
No one told you to put on that costume. No one told you to be Cate the Great.
Yeah.
You just are.
Just did it. I just wrote it. I mean, you know, you obviously take advice from your friends and community, and it comes together and it gets built and influenced. But yeah, it's like when I'm on the top of my little handstand tower at the end of the show and I look out at the crowd, and especially if it's a big one, there is that moment of like, I did this, you know? And you don't necessarily get that with a gig or with a circus. You know, sometimes you're in a circus and you look up and the seats are half empty and you're like, that sucks, you know, but that's somebody else's fault. Or you look out at the just packed arena, and like when I worked for Cirque du Soleil special events, I was performing for like 6,000 people every night. It was crazy. It's an insane amount of people to perform, to look out and just see that many humans out there. But like that's because Cirque du Soleil has a great marketing department. You know, it doesn't mean that the show is any good. It wasn't. It was all right, but like, awesome. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. When I look out and I see my audience, it's like, not only did I stop these people, but I convinced them to stay, and they stayed because I connected with them.
Yeah.
You know, it made a real enough connection that these people are stopped to watch. There's just an incredible feeling that you don't get in any other venue.
This podcast is brought to you by The Artist Athlete. Did you know that The Artist Athlete is more than just a podcast? It's a growing online resource for students of the aerial arts to deepen their journey to badassery by accessing techniques approved by physical therapists and master coaches in the industry. Our current spotlight is on the fundamentals of aerial alignment, a practical manual for hanging upside down. This online manual is a step-by-step guide. It is complete with photos, videos, and exercises that you can implement immediately to help you gain the strength and awareness you need for an aerial practice that promotes shoulder health and longevity and good posture upright, so you don't walk around like a gorilla. But don't just take my word for it. Here's Circus physical therapist Dr. Jen Crane of Cirque Physio to tell you more.
The fundamentals of aerial alignment is an absolute must-have for every aerialist of every level. I can't even tell you how many shoulder injuries I treat that are a direct result of rushing past the basics in an attempt to get a trick too soon. In the manual, Shannon deconstructs the fundamentals, including the correct muscular engagement to safely arrive in these positions and the rationale for why it matters. Of course, in addition to all of these fabulous pearls of wisdom, the book is also ridiculously fun to read. It's been lovingly garnished with the Shannon humor we all know and love.
Thanks, Jen. Cirque Physio is also featured in the book to give scientific insight into why it all works. Pick up your copy today by going to theartistathlete.com and clicking e-manuals. Listeners of the podcast can get a 10% discount by typing in the offer code PODCAST at checkout. Again, that's theartistathlete.com, offer code PODCAST. Now, back to the show. Do you find from country to country it's easier to build a crowd or connect with people?
Every single place is different. And it's kind of weird because you go to these places and a lot of them are tourist places. So it's literally different humans every time, but the crowds are similar. You know, it's like,
interesting.
When I work Faneuil Hall, I have certain strategies that work better at Faneuil Hall. Even though these people are coming from all over the country and all over the world, there's just something about the place that the audiences respond in a certain way. When I work in Harvard Square, which is, like 2.5 miles away, totally different audience. It's a totally different way to build a crowd and to do a show.
What's something that works at Harvard Square that doesn't work at Faneuil Hall?
Harvard Square, so the difference is just in the attitude. Like in Harvard Square, there's a much slower foot traffic, but it's a lot more local people, and it's a lot more English speakers. So I can really take my time to build the show, and there's not a lot of distraction. Like at Faneuil Hall, there's just a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of people trying to take their money. So people are a lot more skittish with the show. They have a shorter attention span. They're less sure they want to commit to the show. With Harvard Square, there are fewer people, but I can take my time with them. I can really get into the jokes. I can really kind of like air out the show and go off on weird tangents and in directions that I want to go, and really play with the people in a way that I can't at Faneuil Hall because it has a lot more focus. At Faneuil, there's a lot more foreign tourists, so like real specific English jokes are not going to land in the same way. There's a lot more distraction. People are there in the middle of like a tour group or something like that. They have an itinerary of things that they want to do that day. So it's a lot harder to convince people to stay, but there are a lot more people. So I can like do quicker, faster, broader shows. Whereas at Harvard Square, I'll do like slower, deeper shows.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I'm really impressed of your versatility to do both, I guess.
Yeah, it's real frustrating. Like, it's not easy.
No doubt.
There's a street performer term that we call cracking the pitch.
Okay.
And every time you move to a different pitch, it takes a while to crack the pitch. So even though you might be like a really world-renowned street performer in one area, like when you move to a new city, you're going to have much harder shows than you're used to having. And it's going to take a while before you like really crack it. And then once you crack it, like you'll start making the kind of money that you're used to or doing the kind of shows that you're used to.
Because you've kind of figured out what the audience or what the space is like.
Exactly.
Okay. How is that different from doing like a Busker Festival?
Oh my God. Busker Festival is like...
Actually, can you explain? Because a lot of people in the audience may not know what that is.
They're terrible, deprived people.
I know. It's time for us to open their eyes to the wonderful world of Busker Festivals.
Busking festivals are great. So it's like now stay with me. It's a festival for buskers.
Whoa.
I know. No, like a lot of times you'll have like a downtown improvements center or a city kind of not recreational department, but like a city events department or some group wants to bring in a bunch of street performers. So there's usually a road closure, or maybe it's at a park, or maybe it's at a busy pedestrian mall or something like that. Usually in the center of town. It's somewhere where they just want to bring people to. And the city or the downtown improvement center will bring in street performers from all over the region or all over the world, depending on the size of the festival. And basically, they pay us, they fly us out there, and they'll put us up, and they'll bring audiences to us, and then we do our shows for those people who show up. Yeah,
I mean, that makes sense. What are the most famous ones?
Well, the Christchurch one used to be
in New Zealand.
Yeah, in New Zealand. That was the biggest for a long time, but they're going through some changes. The Canadian circuit, especially like in the Anglosphere, like English-speaking street performers, that is one of the more well-known circuits. So there's some major ones in Canada. Edmonton,
yeah, whenever I
Halifax.
go to Montreal to train, I get stopped at the border, and they're always like, "Are you there? What do you do?" I'm a circus performer. Mm-hmm. Are you here to street perform? Do you have a visa for that?
Yeah.
It's always the question.
You don't need a visa to street perform in Canada.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Because I'm like, no, I'm not here to work. I'm just here to train. And they're like, well, if we catch you on the street, we're going to send you back to the U.S. I'm like,
They're lying to you.
I'm like, all right, well, I'm not a street performer anyway, so.
Outdoor performances are covered, you're allowed to perform outdoors in Canada without a visa. Yeah.
Good to know.
So street performing festivals and just like raw street performing, like up in Quebec City or wherever, like you can do that without a visa.
Totally allowed.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, because we live in a terrible country, but Canadians don't. So there's
true. God bless Canada.
I know. But it's Busker festivals are great for the local people. A lot of them are in cities. A lot of the best ones are in not major cities. Actually, the biggest ones are in places like Halifax or Edmonton or Waterloo. Weirdly, it's outside of Toronto.
Oh, cool.
So,
okay, thanks. Yeah.
Has a huge Busker festival. And the reason it works best is that these are kind of community-oriented places where people do like to get out, especially if they've been inside in the Canadian winter. You know, they like to get out, and now you've got all of these international high-level performers coming out into their little town to perform just for them. It kind of works out as a good deal for both the city, the audience, and the artist, because they're going to bring more people to the Busker Festival than I'll be able to stop on my own on a regular street pitch. The audiences are going to be able to see more and higher quality shows just by, giving whatever it is that they can afford rather than, putting up a huge chunk of money up front and hoping that whatever show they go see is actually going to be very good.
Yeah.
And then the city is obviously going to be able to bring in more performers than they would be able to afford if they could pay all of us our full fees.
Gotcha.
So it kind of like...
Yeah, nice.
It's kind of like a nice deal. Yeah.
And do you have like a circuit of Busker festivals you do every year?
No.
Or what is a year in the life of a street performer like?
No.
And end of interview. Chaos.
Yeah, thanks. Now you're just making me reflect on all my life choices, just flashing right.
Yeah, that is the purpose of the Artist Athlete podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's really great.
You're welcome.
You to just bring up those existential. No, So, I've been in this business for a long time now. I've made a bunch of different connections, and we just kind of know about what festivals are out there, or you research them and find them. And starting around this time of year, I'll start to send out a flurry of applications for this upcoming summer. Mm-hmm. So I will apply to basically everything. And there are some festivals that I've done before that will want me back, but not necessarily every year because they want to keep the lineup fresh. There are some festivals that I've been pursuing for years that I just haven't gotten because the nature of casting a show is pretty much arbitrary,
Yep. For sure.
I'm competing against thousands of similarly qualified candidates, probably more like hundreds, but, so by usually by February, March, I'll start to know which festivals I'm going to and which ones I'm not. And I do tend to see a lot of the same people in the different festivals because it is still a pretty small industry. But I'm not necessarily working at the same exact festivals every year.
Favorite tricks in your act?
In my show?
Yeah, in your show.
Oh, man. My finale is amazing. It's good. I like it. It's hard to describe. I have a little rollabola table, and then I have another little table that has handstand canes on it, and I stack that table on top of the rollabola table, and I place 5 big machetes around the table part and then climb up on the handstand canes, juggle 5 balls, neck catch, one-handed handstand, lower down to crocodile and take the ball from behind my neck.
It's a pretty good finish.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's awesome. A lot of street performer finales are kind of bullshit, but mine is, I think mine is legit.
Yeah.
The whole tower is 6 feet tall, so I'm starting at 6 feet. My feet end up being 12 or 13 or 14 feet up in the air by the time I'm done with the handstand. It's
I just wanted you to be able to say that so people could actually get an idea of what a badass you are, in that sphere. It's pretty cool.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good trick.
Yeah. Machetes. There's no fire. That's the only thing that I would...
There could be fire.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, it depends on where I'm working.
Gotcha.
So some places outlaw fire. And then some places just require you to have more expensive insurance. And then some places I just can't travel to with all of the gear, so the fire gets cut for weight limit reasons. But ordinarily, instead of the big machetes, I'll have 4 torches and then small machetes between those torches.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So there's machete, torch kind of situation going on.
Yeah, exactly. It's
perfect.
So beautifully tacky.
That's amazing.
It's just like, oh, it's so gaudy.
It's great.
Yeah.
Favorite joke?
Like, well, then there's the Joan of Arc joke that goes with the with the torches. Like,
what's the Joan of Arc joke?
I just stand up there, and as the volunteer lights the torches around me, I just go, "But God, you told me to lead the people of France." A lot of times, nobody laughs. Then I say, "Too soon."
That's awesome.
Sometimes they're just for you.
Yeah, we were talking about that last night, right? Lucy, you were talking about how like some jokes work and some jokes you just keep in because they're just keep you entertained.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta love what you do.
For sure.
If I wanted a terrible job, I would take one. You know?
But instead you're doing crocodiles and machetes and torches.
Yeah, basically.
I kind of am scared to ask this question because I feel like it'll give you another existential crisis. So what do you see going forward? Do you see building another show? Do you see creating for other people?
Yeah, that's a really great question that my mother asks me.
Yeah. If I'm gonna pull it all out, I may as well just like go for the whole entrails, you know?
Yeah, no, just leave me. Yeah. No, it's a very good question. I do love outdoor performing, but it is also exhausting. And when you're only doing one thing, it's easy to forget that other things are also exhausting. So I've been developing a rollerball act, an indoor cabaret style rollerball act. And I've been starting to split my time a little bit between the two. So work a lot, you know, with the Cate Great show, the handstand show, outdoors in the summertime. And then in the winter, pick up indoor, more circusy kind of, like more straight circus.
Yeah, or like cabaret variety kind of work.
Yeah, exactly. So
cool.
trying to just balance that out to give me a break, one from the other, you know, for going back and forth. And then after I'm done with all of this, I don't know, like...
Oh yeah, you don't have to answer that, like no one knows.
Yeah,
I mean, that'll probably be when the apocalypse happens and we all kill ourselves anyway.
Basically.
So.
Yeah. I've also been doing like a lot of joke writing. I don't know that I would write for other people, but I do sometimes write for other people. And there's a bunch of different directions that I could go.
This is something I wonder about, the ownership of jokes. You know, there are tricks that people steal. There's like ideas that people steal, and people steal jokes as well. Yeah?
Yeah. Oh my God. Like street performing is the worst about it. Every time I see street performers crying, like, I'm a real artist. I'm like, you do not have a single original joke in your entire show. Like,
is that something that like makes you a good street performer, is having your own jokes?
I think that street performers respect your ability to make money.
Work.
If you're out there able to stop people, make a show, or like if you're out there able to make a show, stop people, and get paid for it at the end, then street performers will respect you. They respect the work that you're doing. You know, definitely there are people who have there's a divide, I guess, which there is in almost every kind of art, between what people call like effective shows and artistic shows. You know, you've got people who are creating new and interesting work and coming up with new ideas, and their shows probably don't have like a super broad appeal, but the other street performers would be like, wow, you're just doing amazing things that nobody's ever thought of before. And so there's a lot of respect for that. But then there's people who are doing shows that just work really well, and they just work really well every single time. And there's a certain type of you know, respect that people give to that, and a certain type of like pride that goes into that as well. And then there's a continuum along that.
There's like a spectrum of like...
Yeah. Well, there's also like skill-oriented shows and comedy-oriented shows as well. Mm-hmm. You know, and both of those could be like insults, you know? Like, oh my gosh, did you see that guy who was amazing? Yeah, but he just does a skill show, you know?
Yeah. Or like, oh, that guy doesn't have any skill. He's just funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Gotcha.
You know, or like, oh, that guy's a hack, you know? But he does huge shows, but he's a hack. He doesn't write anything.
How do you find it being... because we just keep saying the word guy, and when I think of street performers... Yeah, because it's like 90% true.
Yeah,
it's like dudes. Do you find being a woman in the industry helpful? Do you find it more difficult? I don't know. I always feel weird about asking that question because I'm always like, I don't know what you have to base it on, right? You have never been a guy in the industry. You've only been you, but... Yeah,
it's so hard to like prove, you know, like exactly what the differences are.
Right.
But it does add another layer of complication. Like, it's another lens that you're judged through. That thing I was telling you earlier about trust, about the audience trusting you. Mm-hmm. I have seen guys just like in schlubby costumes wander out and start setting up, and the audience trusts that it's going to be good. And I personally feel like I have to work to establish that trust every single time I go out to do a show. Like, I have to make almost like an extra effort to reassure people that this is not going to be terrible.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? But I can't. It's only observations from my own perspective. I can't prove it. Like, I definitely know that there are, you know, when I'm hanging out with another street performer, or even if I'm just setting up my show and people come up and ask me like, oh, what you doing? I'm about to do a juggling handstand show. They're like, oh, you do that by yourself?
Yeah.
You know, this is just assumed that I'm somebody's partner. And it's not assumed that I'm the primary performer. You know what I mean? It's kind of assumed that I'm going to be the assistant, even though there is literally no one around but me. And my costume matches my equipment. Like, you know? This bright red dress with a red star and 2 red tables with stars on them. Like,
oh man.
It's like, and there's another street performer dressed in like green, and they're like, oh, you guys do a show together? Like, what? No, not very. I worked very hard on this theming. So you wouldn't ask that.
You should do a show that's like, it's like Waiting for Godot, where your like partner is gonna come any moment.
Yeah, I know.
And you just do the whole show. Like, he'll be here any minute with the fire and the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I just thought about that, or just hiring a dude to like start the show, and just to stand out there and just be like,
that would be so funny. Your assistant.
Oh man, Sam is amazing like that.
Sam
Malcolm, yeah, because he's like, I'm doing a duo show with Tony just so I can have a white guy so the audience stops.
Oh, shit.
And then Tony is like, no, Sam's the good one, you guys. I'm totally butchering their entire relationship. But
that's fine.
It's on the internet. It's true now,
yeah,
Sam.
It's so true now. Well, we just called Sam great. It's really Tony that's got to get worried about it, right?
Well, yeah.
But
Tony knows.
Do you have anything else to add? That's the worst question I could possibly ask. I recognize it.
It's so
like, what else do you want to say, Kate?
Open-ended. Oh, God. Would you like to talk about yourself some more?
Well, my last question... Yeah, I know. It's really weird. But my last question that I always ask people is, what advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Just write and do not be afraid to write and write some more. Like, just do the show that you want to do and then figure out how to make that good. Don't try to figure out how to make a good show. Try to figure out how to do the show you want to do and then make that good.
That's really good advice, Kate.
Yeah.
Damn.
Would have saved so much time.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I wonder about this because I get that advice a lot. People are always like, just do the thing you want to do and then make it good. But then I think about like what you're talking about with these people who are on this spectrum of, you know, the performers who are like kind of hacks or they're stealing everybody's jokes, but they're hella entertaining, so they're going to make some coin. And then the people who are like doing what they really love to do, but it's like so esoteric or so weird that like who gets it?
That's the second part.
Oh, yeah? Make it good.
Yes.
Oh.
See, like...
I see it now.
Yeah. If you're just making yourself happy, then you're not really doing a show. You're not really connecting with people. But you can find another layer. Like, with street performing, there is a formula. There is a formula to making a street show. You don't have to do the formula. Like, you don't have to do the formula in the same way that other people do. But you can find the way to make the formula your own. Like, you can fill in those steps with things that make you happy, right? So you can take the ideas that you have and then find a way to communicate those ideas to the audience. Try to make it into a form that works for both you and the audience. And then I think you've made something special.
Nice.
Because I think that art should be about communication. And in street performing, you have a rare opportunity to do something that really communicates directly with people, because you can say directly to people, hello, how are you? Like, you can make jokes that talk. You can see, you don't have stage lights in your face. You can look into the eyes of your audience and you could see every single person that is there watching you. And if you want, you can just use your microphone to literally talk to them. You could see someone in a Patriots hat and go like, go Pats, and they'll cheer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's a real immediate experience. So you can find the ways that the ideas that work in your brain communicate something to the people who've stopped to watch you, as opposed to just saying like, I have all these ideas. Why don't you people like me? What is wrong with you? You can search out for a way to make a connection with people.
That's beautiful. We'll leave it there.
I'm
Well
such
done,
a goddamn
Kate.
artist. Oh my god.
She is, though.
Look
She's
at
a
me.
poet. She's a poet. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Super appreciate it.
That was my interview with Cate Great. Cate was such a fantastic guest. It was so fun to have her on the podcast. What I love about interviewing everyone I interview in the circus industry, and I hope that maybe if you're listening to a couple of episodes and you are exclusively practicing one discipline, you're starting to hear how all of it kind of has some themes that are coming together. And one of the biggest themes that I hear from people like Cate is, firstly, this idea that her success came when she decided to write a show with a character that she enjoyed performing, with skills she enjoyed performing. She didn't go out and try to figure out what sold. She didn't go out and try to figure out who she should be like or what kind of mold she was trying to fill. Cate just sat down, wrote the jokes she wanted to tell, worked on the things that she wanted to present to an audience, and then did it. We started to talk in the end about how there's this spectrum, right, of a side where people are artists, they're making artists, and they're making the things they love. And then on the other side, there are entertainers. There are people who are just kind of like, this is the formula, this is how it works, and this is what I'm going to do. But I think the best of the best kind of meet in the middle. They figure out what they want to make, and then they figure out how to make what they want to make good or accessible. Cate says that good artists are good communicators, and I totally agree with that. The other thing that I wanted to say is that if you live in a place or happen to be around street performers, if you're walking around and you see one, and you stop for a minute to enjoy what they're doing, know that they have worked long and hard to get to the point where you are enjoying what they are doing. And if you do enjoy it, compensate the performer for their time and their artistry. If you're interested in hearing more interviews with street performers, I did another one with Etienne and Leah of Acrobatrics, who are street performers / Renaissance Festival goers / people who have created their own show and are working on material. They're a little bit different than Cate in style, but the idea is kind of the same. And they're on episode 25.
If you want to find out more about Cate Great, you can go to categreat.com. And on Instagram, she is Cate, C-A-T-E, Cate Great, G-R-E-A-T, Cate Great Show. If you are of the aerial persuasion and you want training tips or information, you can follow me on Instagram at @the_artist_athlete. My website is theartistathlete.com, and I'm on Facebook, The Artist Athlete. And if you are loving what you're listening to, again, patreon.com/theartistathlete. I got the same name in all the places because that's what branding is. Cool. So thanks for listening, guys. I keep forgetting to say this, but if you like the podcast, I do episodes every Monday. So make sure you subscribe, and you can rate and review the podcast as well. And that really helps me bump up in the iTunes ratings. It bumps up the noticeability of the podcast. I don't know if that's a word, but if it is, that's what it does. So thanks for doing that. And I will talk at you next week. The Artist Athlete Podcast is supported solely by donations from people like you. Here's what some of those people have to say.
Hi, I'm Katie Betts, and I'm the director of Shared Culture Concepts, which is a full-service marketing company for circus and performing arts. You can visit our website at www.sharedcultureconcepts.com. On the website, you can find a copy of our ebook, which covers basics of marketing, specifically for circus educators, coaches, studio owners, and circus artists.
Aloha! My name is Beth Russell, and I live on the beautiful island of Maui, Hawaii. I am an aerial artist and movement instructor specializing in chakra yoga to keep me balanced and grounded. I play with silks, trapeze, lyra, rope, acro, aerial yoga and dance, slacklining, pole, bungee, and climbing. Really anything that goes up and allows me to explore 3D space. You can find my dedicated aerial page on Instagram at Maui Aerialist. If you find yourself coming to Maui, let's play.
Hey there, friends, fans, and enemies. This is Chris Alston, Patreon of the Artist Athlete Podcast, straps artist and lyra performer and acrobat out of Greenville, South Carolina. So, if you're ever passing through, make sure to stop in and see me and my friends. We have a wonderful space, and we'd love to see you.
Hi, my name is Erica Lee. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm an aerialist. I teach performing arts to elementary school during the day and do pole and slings and ropes by night. I really, really like the Artist Athlete Podcast because it gives me a lot of circus goals to look forward to. It gives me a lot of insight on what's going on around the world in circus, and that's why I'm on Patreon.
Hello all. Thank you for tuning in to the Artist Athlete Podcast. I am Opal Schwartz from Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you're ever in the cities, feel free to stop by the Aviary Minneapolis. It's a great time. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and goodbye.